So hi Darren, thank you for making it to this meeting. So we'll start the session off by going over the agenda and kind of what to expect throughout this training session. So as we have discussed when we met with Greg's parents, you're having difficulty with dressing routines for outside with Greg. He constantly needs your attention and help when putting his coat on, is that correct? Yeah. So as we had agreed with Greg's parents, we would help teach you how to implement a most to least prompting procedure to help gain independence for Greg, and as well as give you time to help other students as well. So for the agenda, as you can see here, we will go over what most to least prompting is and the important terminology, as well as the importance of your role in implementing this skill with Greg. And then we will go over what the target behavior looks like and how to implement that. And then we will model what a successful trial of most to least prompting would look like with Greg, where I will be the trainer and you will act as Greg. And then we will go to rehearsals once you're comfortable with the modeling. And this is where you will take what you've learned and practice it with me, where I will act as Greg and you will act as yourself. And then after rehearsals, we will go over feedback and fill out a performance checklist, which is just a tool to help you track your progress and make sure that you are hitting all the mastery criteria. And then finally, we will discuss an appropriate time to schedule a follow-up training session to monitor your progress and clarify any questions you have. In this training session as well, we will be focusing on full physical prompts. So this is the first stage in most to least prompting. So we will discuss the time to schedule more training where we will rehearse and discuss how to further implement the other training stages, so such as partial physical prompt, modeling, gestures, and verbal prompts. Okay. So to begin, we will go over the instructions and the important concepts. So what is most to least prompting? So this is a technique that teaches the new skill to an individual. So this is where the instructor begins by introducing a most intrusive prompt first, as well as a verbal prompt. And then they gradually decrease this prompt as the learner gains independence and acquisition of the skill and can do that independently. So there's some important concepts or terminology that you should know. So full physical prompt, what we will mostly be focusing on today. So this is physically guiding the learner throughout the task. So holding the learner's arm throughout the task to physically guide them to an object, and then physically guiding their hand to pick up that object, for example. And then a partial physical prompt, so this is similar to a physical prompt. However, the instructor is only nudging the learner's arm instead of physically guiding them throughout the whole task. And then modeling, so this is just modeling the behavior you want the learner to complete. So this can be the entire task or just the beginning to prompt them to start the task that you want them to do. And then there are gestures, so this includes pointing, head tilts, eye gazes in the direction of what you would like the learner to pay attention to. And then finally, the last prompt in most to least prompting is a verbal prompt. So this is just a verbal instruction or a question to guide the learner. So for example, saying zip up your coat, or did you forget something? Okay, do you have any questions so far about that? No? So now we'll just talk about why it's important that you're implementing this strategy with Greg. So not only does it allow Greg to be more independent, it allows you to focus on other students as well, as his lack of independence with dressing for outside really takes away time with other students who might need your help. And this creates a more efficient environment while teaching Greg a new skill. So the objective for you is to successfully implement most to least training with 80% accuracy over 3 consecutive trials. So this helps to track progress. If we find that you aren't meeting mastery criteria, that means maybe the training needs to be revamped, or questions or concerns need to be addressed. Do you have any questions about the importance? No? Okay. So now we will go over the instructions. So this will help to show you what the target behavior looks like and how you actually implement this procedure. So I have created a task analysis for you. This is just a complex behavior broken down into smaller steps so that Greg can understand and you can prompt through these different steps. So when working with Greg, we will provide a verbal prompt for each of the steps, and then deliver a full physical prompt within 5 seconds of the verbal prompt through each of these steps. Okay, so once Greg has shown mastery criteria of 80% over 3 consecutive trials, you can fade the full physical prompt to a partial physical prompt. And then once he has shown mastery criteria with a partial physical prompt, you can again fade it to a modeling prompt, and then again to a gesture prompt, and then again to a verbal prompt, and that would be the last prompting stage in the session. So at each prompting stage, Greg should be reinforced verbally with verbal praise. So you would label the behavior that he's doing. So good job putting your coat on, Greg. And then within 5 seconds of that, deliver a reinforcer to him so that he knows that he's done a good job and he knows why he's getting that reinforcer. So this prompting procedure should only be implemented when Greg is going outside. So for example, he won't need a jacket when it's hot out, so you wouldn't need to implement this prompting procedure for when it's 30 degrees outside. However, he will need a jacket when it is raining or it's really windy, so it's kind of on your discretion when to implement that. Just mostly when he needs a jacket is when this prompting procedure should be implemented. So an important thing to note is that if Greg is engaging in self-initiated independence with one of the steps, you don't need to apply that prompting procedure. So if he is on his own going to grab his coat, you don't need to physically prompt him to do that. You can allow him to engage in that, and if he ends up engaging in off-task behavior, then you can include a not so intrusive prompt so that he can get back on the right track and back on task. So we will go over the performance checklist here. So we will fill this out after we do the rehearsals. So how you would fill it out is you put your name, the client's name, and the date, and then this is the mediator objective. So you will successfully implement most of these prompting with Greg with 80% accuracy over 3 consecutive sessions. So you can read these when we get to the feedback session, and then we'll just both fill that out together to monitor your progress. So do you have any questions now that we've gone over instructions? So now we will actually model how this procedure works. So in this step, I will be the trainer or the teacher, and you will act as Greg, and I will prompt you through each of the steps in the task analysis. So are you ready to begin? Yeah? Okay, so Greg, get your coat. Okay. And now put your hand through the left hole. And grab your hand around the back to get the coat. And put your hand in the armhole. Okay, great. Now grab the bottom of each side of the coat and zip up your coat. Okay, that was great. So now we can take it off. Okay, so that was awesome. We will go through partial physical prompting, modeling, gestural, and verbal prompts in subsequent training sessions after we finish this one. We're just going to focus on the full physical prompt for right now. But should you need to use one of those prompts, you can always refer back to the terminology here and just implement that with Greg. We'll go over the first step for partial physical prompting, just because that's the next step in the prompting procedure when you fade the full physical prompt. So we'll just try that out now, just so you're used to it, and then we will go on to the rehearsals. So are you ready to begin the partial physical prompt?
Yep.
Okay. So Greg, get your coat. Okay, great. So for the rest of that, you would just touch his arm, to prompt him to begin that stage. Okay. Did you have any questions about full physical prompts or any of the other prompts at all? No? Okay, so we will rehearse now. So you will act as yourself, the teacher, and I will act as Greg, and you will just prompt me through putting on my coat.
Take your hand, grab your coat, and take your right hand and put it through the right armhole. And take your left hand, reach around and grab your jacket. Now put your arm through the armhole, and then reach down the bottom, put the zippers together, and zip it up.
That was awesome. That was really good. I'm glad you remembered.